Welcome back to the Gold IRA Blueprint podcast. Today we're diving deep into a topic that's been generating a lot of buzz lately.
Gold IRAs.
Yeah, gold IRAs. And more specifically,
Why high net worth individuals
they're
are increasingly turning to them in 2025.
yeah, as part of their retirement strategies. But here's the thing. This isn't just some exclusive club for the super rich. Understanding how the affluent safeguard their wealth can offer valuable lessons for anyone planning for retirement,
That's right.
including you.
That's a crucial point.
Yeah.
What's captivating about this trend is that it signals a shift in the financial landscape. We're not just talking about a fleeting investment fad.
Hey.
There are underlying reasons driving this movement that we need to unpack.
Absolutely. And we're going to do just that, guided by a recent article that really piqued my interest.
Yeah.
The 2025 Gold IRA Revolution. Why high net worth individuals are making the strategic shift. Before we get into the nitty-gritty, I want to mention a resource we put together for you, a free checklist to help you choose the right Gold IRA company. You can grab it at goldirablueprint.com/Strack.
Very cool.
All right, let's set the stage. Everyone's feeling the pressure of market volatility and economic uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
Well, high net worth individuals are no different. In fact, they often feel these shifts even more acutely because they have more at stake.
Precisely. The article we're referencing highlights how the traditional investment landscape has undergone a significant transformation,
Yeah.
particularly since 2024.
Since 2024, we've seen persistent inflation concerns eroding purchasing power, and the stock market has been, well, unpredictable, to say the least.
Unpredictable. And here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
It's not just about market forces at play.
Right.
The 2024 Tax Reform Act
Oh, yeah.
introduced some noteworthy legal changes that have made gold IRAs even more appealing.
Especially for those focused on estate planning.
That Tax Reform Act is a game changer. We're seeing a convergence of factors, economic shifts, and legal changes that are making gold IRAs a very attractive option. For a broader range of investors, the old playbook relying solely on traditional investments isn't holding up as well as it used to.
Yeah. Let's delve into those advantages. What's making gold IRAs so attractive to high net worth investors?
Yeah.
We keep hearing about estate planning, but for many that sounds like a complicated world.
It doesn't have to be. In essence, gold IRAs offer distinct advantages when it comes to passing wealth down through generations. The 2024 Tax Reform Act
Okay.
introduced key changes that enable a more tax-efficient transfer of wealth using these accounts, which is a significant perk for those with substantial assets.
So instead of just saying tax efficient, let's break that down for our listeners.
Sure.
How are gold IRAs treated differently than traditional IRAs when it comes to inheritance?
That's a great question. With traditional IRAs, when your heirs inherit the account, they are often subject to both estate taxes and income tax on those assets. However,
wow.
gold IRAs, thanks to the 2024 reforms, offer more flexibility in designating beneficiaries and structuring the inheritance to potentially minimize that tax burden. This can make a considerable difference in preserving wealth for future generations.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not just about accumulating wealth. It's about ensuring it reaches your loved ones intact.
Exactly. And it's not just about passing on wealth, it's also about safeguarding it during your lifetime. Gold IRAs can act as a buffer against those market corrections we discussed earlier. This is where that concept of a hedge comes into play.
Right. We hear that term a lot, hedge against inflation or hedge against market volatility. Could you elaborate on what that actually means for someone who might not be familiar with financial jargon?
Think of it like this. When inflation rises, the value of your money decreases. It's as if your dollars are slowly turning into dimes. Gold historically has tended to hold its value or even increase in price during times of inflation, which helps protect your savings from being eroded by rising prices.
Okay.
Similarly, when the stock market takes a tumble, gold often retains its value or even goes up, acting as a safety net within your portfolio.
So it's like having a backup plan, a way to diversify your portfolio and potentially cushion the blow during turbulent times.
Exactly. And there's another aspect that appeals to many investors, the tangibility of gold. It's not just numbers on a screen. You're actually owning a physical asset with inherent value that has endured for centuries.
That psychological aspect is interesting. There's a certain peace of mind that comes with knowing you have something tangible, something you can hold in your hand,
Right.
rather than just relying on the performance of financial instruments.
Absolutely. There's a sense of security and control that comes with owning physical gold. It's a tangible representation of your wealth that has transcended economic cycles for millennia.
This is all fascinating stuff, and I'm sure our listeners are eager to learn more. But before we dive deeper, let's pause for a moment and address a practical question.
Okay.
How does a gold IRA actually compare to a traditional IRA in terms of the nuts and bolts? What are the key distinctions that our listeners should be aware of?
That's a great question, and it's one that often comes up. The article we're discussing provides a helpful table that outlines the key differences.
Okay,
Let's walk through those points, but instead of just reciting dry facts, let's make sure we explain them in a way that's relatable and relevant to your personal financial journey.
sounds good to me.
Mhm.
Let's start with asset protection. What's the fundamental difference between having your retirement savings in financial instruments versus owning physical gold?
With a traditional IRA, your assets are typically held in stocks, bonds, and other financial instruments. These can fluctuate in value, sometimes dramatically, as we've seen recently.
Yeah, for sure.
A gold IRA, on the other hand, allows you to own physical gold bullion, which is a tangible asset with a long history of preserving wealth.
So what are the inherent advantages and disadvantages of each approach? What should our listeners consider when weighing those options?
Well, financial instruments like stocks and bonds have the potential for higher returns, but they also carry more risk. Physical gold, while it may not experience the same growth, is generally considered a more stable asset, especially during times of economic uncertainty. It's like the tortoise and the hare, slow and steady, can sometimes win the race when it comes to safeguarding your wealth.
That's a great analogy. It's not about chasing the highest returns, but about striking the right balance between risk and reward, especially when it comes to your retirement savings. Next on the list is estate tax treatment. This is where those enhanced beneficiary options for gold IRAs come into play.
All right.
Can you give us a real-world example of how this might benefit someone? Let's say, for example, a listener who wants to ensure their children inherit their wealth with minimal tax implications.
Certainly. Imagine you have a substantial amount in your IRA and you want to pass it on to your children. With a traditional IRA, your heirs would inherit the account and be subject to estate taxes on those assets, potentially diminishing the inheritance they receive. However, gold IRAs, thanks to the 2024 Tax Reform Act, offer more flexibility. You can designate beneficiaries and structure the inheritance to potentially minimize the tax burden on your loved ones.
So it's about leveraging the available tools and strategies to maximize the inheritance your heirs receive. It's not just about avoiding taxes altogether, it's about smart planning.
Exactly. And with potential future tax increases always on the horizon, incorporating these strategies into your retirement and estate planning becomes even more crucial.
Let's move on to inflation protection, a topic we touched upon earlier. How does gold's historical performance as a hedge against inflation actually play out within an IRA? Could you paint a picture for our listeners?
Think of it this way. As inflation rises, the purchasing power of your money diminishes. What you could buy for $1 a few years ago might cost you $1.50 today. That's inflation eroding the value of your savings. Gold, historically, has held its value relatively well during inflationary periods. While your dollar might be losing purchasing power, the value of your gold holdings could be increasing, offsetting that loss.
So it's like having a built-in safeguard against the shrinking value of the dollar.
Exactly. It's about preserving your purchasing power over the long term, ensuring that your retirement savings will still have the same buying power down the road.
All right, next up is storage requirements. I think some people might envision themselves having to store bars of gold under their mattresses.
Yeah,
Can you debunk that myth and explain how storage actually works with a gold IRA?
you're right. That's a common misconception. With the gold IRA, you don't have to worry about becoming a homegrown Fort Knox. The IRS mandates that gold IRA assets be held in secure approved depositories. These are specialized facilities with stringent security measures and regular audits to ensure the safety of your precious metals.
So rather than adding a new home security system, you're entrusting your gold to a professional custodian who specializes in this type of storage. That sounds much more secure and convenient.
Precisely. These depositories offer a number of advantages, including top-notch security insurance coverage and those regular audits to ensure compliance with IRS regulations. It removes the burden of storage and the worry of theft or damage from your shoulders.
That makes a lot of sense. Speaking of security, that brings us to the question of portfolio integration. If someone is considering a gold IRA, how much of their retirement assets should be allocated to gold? Is there a magic number?
That's an excellent question, and unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all answer. The optimal allocation will depend on a variety of factors, including your overall investment goals, risk tolerance, and time horizon.
So professional advice is key here. It's not just about jumping on the gold IRA bandwagon. It's about making informed decisions that align with your individual circumstances.
Absolutely. A qualified financial advisor can help you assess your current portfolio, understand your risk profile, and determine what percentage of your assets, if any, should be allocated to gold. They can also guide you through the process of setting up a gold IRA and choosing the right depository.
That's a great point. It's important to remember that investing involves inherent risks, and diversification is key to managing those risks. And as we've been discussing, gold IRAs can play a unique role in that diversification strategy. Before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to remind you about a valuable resource we have available, a free checklist to help you navigate the often complex world of choosing a gold IRA company. You can download it at goldirablueprint.com for exclusive. This checklist can help you ask the right questions, compare fees, and ultimately make a more informed decision. Now let's delve a little deeper into the advantages of a gold IRA strategy, specifically focusing on its potential benefits for estate planning. We touched upon this earlier, but I want to ensure we fully explore how a gold IRA can be a valuable tool for securing your legacy.
Of course. One of the key advantages of a gold IRA for estate planning is the potential to minimize estate taxes for your beneficiaries. The 2024 Tax Reform Act, as we mentioned before, introduced some significant changes that make gold IRAs even more appealing in this regard.
Could you unpack those changes for us and illustrate how they might apply to a real-world scenario? Let's say, for example, someone wants to ensure their children inherit their wealth as smoothly and efficiently as possible.
Certainly. Under the new regulations, you have greater flexibility in designating beneficiaries for your gold IRA. You can even use strategies like trusts to manage the distribution of assets and potentially reduce the overall tax burden on your heirs. For example, you could set up a trust that receives your gold IRA assets upon your passing. This trust could then distribute those assets to your beneficiaries over time, potentially reducing their tax liability and ensuring that your wealth is managed according to your wishes.
So it's not just about passing on a lump sum. It's about creating a structured plan that maximizes the benefits for your heirs and minimizes potential tax implications.
Exactly. And that level of control and customization is a significant advantage of gold IRAs in the context of estate planning. It allows you to tailor your legacy plan to your specific family dynamics and financial goals.
Now let's shift gears and explore another key advantage of gold IRAs, wealth preservation. We've discussed how gold can act as a hedge against market volatility and inflation. Could you elaborate on the historical context of gold as a safe haven asset?
Absolutely. Gold has been a store of value for millennia. Throughout history, during times of economic uncertainty, war, or political instability, people have turned to gold as a safe haven. Its value has endured through empires and currencies, making it a reliable asset for preserving wealth across generations.
So while paper currencies might rise and fall, gold has this intrinsic value that seems to withstand the test of time. It's like having a piece of history in your portfolio.
Exactly. That historical resilience is one of the reasons why gold is often viewed as a safe haven asset. It's a tangible asset that's not subject to the whims of governments or central banks.
That sense of stability is especially appealing in today's world, where economic uncertainty seems to be the norm rather than the exception.
Precisely. And that's why we're seeing this resurgence of interest in gold, not just as a speculative investment, but as a core component of a long-term wealth preservation strategy.
But what about the argument that gold doesn't generate any income? Unlike stocks that pay dividends or bonds that pay interest, gold doesn't provide a regular stream of income.
That's a valid point. However, it's crucial to remember that the primary purpose of gold in a portfolio is not income generation, but capital preservation and inflation hedging. It's about protecting the value of your assets, not necessarily generating income from them.
So it's about playing a specific role within a diversified portfolio.
Exactly. It's not about replacing all your other investments with gold, but about incorporating it strategically to enhance your overall portfolio's resilience and stability.
That's a crucial distinction. It's about understanding the different roles that various assets play in a well-structured portfolio. This has been incredibly insightful. But before we wrap up this section, I want to touch upon another aspect of gold IRAs that often piques people's curiosity, the privacy factor. Can you elaborate on how gold IRAs offer a level of privacy that you don't typically get with traditional investments?
Of course. Unlike stocks and bonds, which are publicly traded and tracked, your gold holdings within a gold IRA are not subject to the same level of public scrutiny. This can be appealing for individuals who value their privacy and prefer to keep their financial affairs discreet.
So for those who are concerned about financial privacy, a gold IRA offers an added layer of confidentiality. It's not about hiding assets, but about having greater control over who has access to your financial information.
Exactly. It's about personal autonomy and having the freedom to manage your finances without unnecessary exposure.
That's a valuable point, especially in today's world where data privacy is becoming increasingly important.
Absolutely. And beyond the practical and financial benefits, there's also a psychological aspect to owning gold that shouldn't be overlooked.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for many people, owning gold provides a sense of comfort and security. It's a tangible asset that they can see and touch, a reminder of their financial stability. This can be especially reassuring during times of economic uncertainty or market volatility.
It's like having a tangible symbol of your financial well-being, something that you can hold in your hand and know that it represents real value.
Precisely. And that psychological benefit can be just as important as the practical benefits when it comes to making financial decisions.
I think that's a great point to transition into the final part of our deep dive. We've covered a lot of ground exploring the nuances of gold IRAs, their potential advantages and disadvantages, and why they're gaining traction, especially among high net worth individuals. But what about those who are just starting their retirement planning journey, or those who are looking for alternative strategies to safeguard their savings?
That's where we'll pick up in the final part of our deep dive. We'll address some common concerns about gold IRAs, dispel some myths, and offer some concluding thoughts on how to integrate these strategies into your overall retirement plan.
Welcome back to the Gold IRA Blueprint Podcast. As we wrap up our deep dive into the world of gold IRAs, I want to address some common concerns and potential drawbacks that people often bring up.
Okay.
After all, it's essential to approach any investment strategy with a balanced perspective.
I agree. It's important to consider both the potential benefits and the potential downsides before making any financial decisions.
One concern I often hear is the fear of missing out on potential stock market gains.
Mm-hmm.
People worry that if they allocate a portion of their retirement savings to gold,
Yeah.
they might miss out on the next big bull market.
That's a valid concern. Stocks historically have offered the potential for higher returns than gold. However, it's important to remember that diversification is a cornerstone of sound investing. It's not about putting all your eggs in one basket, but about spreading your risk across different asset classes.
So it's not an either scenario.
Right.
It's about finding the right balance
Right.
for your individual circumstances and risk tolerance.
Exactly. Gold, as we've discussed, plays a specific role in a diversified portfolio. It's not intended to be a growth engine, but rather a hedge against risk and inflation.
So it's about having a well-rounded portfolio
Mm-hmm.
that includes a mix of assets, each with its own purpose and potential.
Precisely. And a qualified financial advisor can help you determine the appropriate allocation for your portfolio based on your individual needs and goals.
Another concern that often arises is the fees associated with gold IRAs. People worry that these fees might eat into their returns.
It's true that gold IRAs typically have higher fees than traditional IRAs.
Okay.
This is primarily because there are additional costs associated with storing and insuring physical gold.
So it's not just about the cost of the gold itself,
Right.
but also the cost of ensuring its safety and security.
Exactly. Those fees cover the secure storage and approved depositories, insurance coverage, and regular audits to ensure compliance with IRS regulations. It's about protecting your investment.
That makes sense. It's like paying a premium for peace of mind, knowing that your assets are well protected.
Precisely. And while it's wise to be mindful of fees, it's also essential to consider the value you're receiving in return. In the case of gold IRAs, that value includes the security, tangibility, and potential hedge against inflation that gold offers.
So it's not just about minimizing fees, but about making sure you're getting the best value for your investment.
Absolutely. And keep in mind that fees can vary between gold IRA providers, so it's important to shop around and compare costs before making a decision.
Speaking of making informed decisions, I want to reiterate why this topic matters, even if you're not a high net worth individual.
Yeah.
The strategies and insights we've discussed can be valuable for anyone planning for retirement.
Absolutely. The economic landscape is changing, and it's essential to be proactive about protecting your savings and building a solid foundation for the future.
We've talked about the core benefits of gold IRAs and the current climate estate planning flexibility, tangible asset hedge professional storage, and potential inflation protection. These are all factors that can contribute to a more secure retirement regardless of your income level.
And as we've emphasized throughout this deep dive, seeking professional guidance is crucial when making these types of decisions. A qualified financial advisor can help you assess your individual circumstances, understand the complexities of gold IRAs, and develop a retirement plan that aligns with your specific needs.
So it's not about going it alone, but about assembling a team of experts who can guide you through the process.
Exactly. It's about making informed decisions, understanding your options, and creating a plan that gives you confidence in your financial future.
As we conclude this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought-provoking question.
Given the trends we've discussed, the market volatility, the inflation concerns, the shifting legal landscape, How do you envision the retirement landscape evolving in the coming years? It's a question worth pondering as you navigate your own retirement planning journey. We encourage you to continue exploring these topics and seeking knowledge that empowers you to make informed decisions. And remember, you don't have to do this alone. We have a valuable resource for you, a free checklist to help you navigate the world of gold IRAs and choose the right company for your needs. You can find it at goldirablueprint.com/exclusive. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of gold IRAs. We hope you found it insightful and helpful as you plan for a secure and fulfilling retirement. Remember, knowledge is power, and being informed is the first step towards taking control of your financial future.